8 seconds into the broadcast, like here I am, like on camera. Donnie and I got into our first ever spat on the track when I asked him a 14-minute question under an open red, and he kind of gave me some attitude.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sprint Car Nights here on the Team Netcode channel. I'm Josh Gerlach. I'm here with my co-host Dawson Elliott. No Blake tonight. He had a late obligation come up that wasn't able to make it. So we are joined tonight by the voice of the High Limit Racing series and also the star of the Raudman Rundown on YouTube, Chase Raudman. Thanks for joining us, man. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I watched one of your guys' episodes here recently, trying to remember which one it was, but can't off the top of my head right now. But excited to talk about High Limit. Obviously, we're getting going here in about 3 days. So obviously a lot to talk about and a lot of different storylines to discuss. And so looking forward to talking about all with you guys here tonight.
Absolutely. I think you were harassing B-Walks when he was on here last year too.
Oh, yeah.
Correctly.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that should be a fun show. We got a lot to talk about, like you said. Make sure, first off, both here and on the Raudman Rundown, hit like and subscribe. Help boost the numbers a little bit here. It helps grow the community. So we're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all your podcast platforms as well. We've got a little bit of news to talk about before we jump into a little bit of Chase and then a little bit of High Limit. First off, Chase Dietz has remained undefeated out at the Lincoln Speedway out in Pennsylvania. Picked up another win over the weekend. And then I think the talk of sprint car social media, Twitter, whatever you will, was old Donny Schatz. Finally got back in the win column at the Talladega Short Track. Boys, I know you would have both been watching. What do you think about that?
Vintage Donny Schatz right through the middle. I mean, I said last week that I said a win was coming in the next 4 months. What I meant to say is that win is coming in the next week. He looked vintage Donny Schatz. That CJB car has had speed all year long, and it finally showed out, finally qualified, and it showed very well.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited. I was watching, and I was just waiting for something to go wrong, right? I mean, I just feel like there's been so many opportunities the last year or so, and something always would happen, whether a lap car or he breaks or some guy passes him late. I mean, I was just sitting there like, what is going to go wrong in this race? And luckily nothing did, and he won. So it was cool to see the emotion in victory lane. I mean, the guy's a legend, right? I mean, I think he's the best sprint car driver I've ever personally watched on the track. And so hopefully that's the first of many this year.
Absolutely. He was racing. There's some lap cars that were racing him there towards the end. I was like, oh my God, if he gets taken out by a lapper, this is not going to go over well. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Dawson, he was fast all night. You know, he went second quick and then won everything the rest of the night, which was good to see. And I know you have a really good relationship, at least it would appear on camera, with Donnie on Chase.
Yeah.
What was you know, you mentioned it. You've seen the emotions and everything out of him. Things just look different, and we've heard kind of, you know, in the background and everything about kind of how that all went down at Tony Stewart Racing, and seemed like a change was needed. And it almost just, you can see the difference in Donnie this year, I feel like, and that goes a long way.
Obviously, I'm not in the pit area every week and like I used to be, but he just looks happier, like all around, way happier guy, which, you know, when I was there, sometimes he wasn't the happiest guy, but hey, you know, like you said, at the beginning, our relationship wasn't very good, but there towards the end, we got it all figured out and whatnot. But yeah, he definitely seems way more relaxed, way more happy. He's like he doesn't seem worried. Like before that win, he did not seem worried about winning a race. Like it seemed like it was bound to happen to him. He felt like they had the speed to do it. So like I said, that's why I think that that's the first of many. I mean, they seem very confident. And it's crazy. The Outlaws have had some wild storylines already this year in the first 6 races. Baston with his new car wins, Sheldon his new car wins, and now Donnie with his new car wins. So that's good to see. And maybe we'll see something like that with High Limit, because there are a lot of new pairings, going to get started here in Las Vegas later this week.
Absolutely. And we've got a tie atop the point standings. We got Carson Macedo and David Gravel. It was a rare off night for David. Didn't qualify very well. He went backwards in his heat race and almost recovered for a top 10, which you rarely see him outside the top 10. What'd you make of that?
I mean, I'm just amazed that we are 6 races in and he hasn't won. Like, I mean, I want to know what the Vegas odds are on that. Crazy that he has not won. I don't think anybody's repeated, right? It's been all different. Well, no,
Anthony Macri.
Yeah, Macri won twice. Yeah, so not a full-time Outlaws won twice. But yeah, Gravel, I mean, it was weird. I felt like the track was really hard to pass on. There wasn't like a huge hard charge or anything like that. So not ideal track conditions, I guess you could say, but gravel tried to make his way up there. 11th place finish. I mean, they're not going to get many opportunities for that to happen. And probably a good thing for Buddy, obviously, after what happened to him at Volusia, to at least have gravel have a semi bad night to make up some ground. He ended up third, I think. So he made up some points. And then obviously with Carson right there, they're tied. So I'm looking forward to watching how it all unfolds the rest of the year.
Yeah, and we talked about that last week, Dawson, that Macedo has kind of been like the quiet, really, really consistent guy so far this year. And I don't think it's terribly surprising that he is, tied for the points lead and, just getting over that hump of getting into victory lane a little bit more when you have gravel, this uber consistent performance that we've seen the last few years. It's going to be interesting to see over the next month, I'd say.
Yeah, and some very interesting tracks coming up. We got Kinderdale, obviously, this weekend. Don't know off the top of my head if he struggled at Kinderdale, but I'm going to assume not, because you just don't see that JJR car really struggle anywhere very much. And they, like I told you a couple weeks ago, they just don't have mechanical issues, and they're just very consistent. Probably one of the more consistent outlaw teams out there. I'm very excited to see kind of where we go from here, because a tie at the top of the point standings this early on was not unexpected, but at the same time, it's still kind of exciting, because I believe that by this time last year, gravel kind of already extended it out quite a bit. So excited to see how we go. Kinderdale's going to be interesting. Hopefully we get some good weather. I know last year was kind of crappy. So we'll see how it goes, and excited for everything else coming up.
I think was that last year where it was like really super windy, or was it?
Yeah, it had that massive
R word. I can't remember.
Massive storm, like a sandstorm moving through. It took rubber in the heat races. I mean, there's kind of one of those nights kind of have to get through it. I think the second night they really overwatered it to try to make up for what they lost the night before. So hopefully they got some consistent weather, because I think Kinderdale can be a gem. Just kind of have to get the right weather for it. But in March, that's really hard to do. So excited to see. I know in Vegas they're going to have extremely warm temperatures. I think I posted in the group chat yesterday that we won't have to worry about it being cold and windy this year. It's going to be 90 degrees every single day. So excited to see that. And I know Chase is excited to see wingless 360s back with High Limit this weekend as well.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's crazy you mentioned that, because one of my first big races was actually announcing the non-wing 360s with the Outlaws 2015 or something. That was like the first time I ever met Johnny. And little do we know, 5 years later, I'd be working with him. But I did the USAC 360s at Vegas 2015 or 16 or something like that. So it's kind of funny you bring that up. But yeah, going to be a good field for High Limit. And I think they said they're going to have like 30 non-wing cars too. So it should be a pretty good, double header as far as the two classes go.
Really looking forward to that, and we'll dive into High Limit here in just a moment. But I want to parlay. This was a great transition, guys, into your story a little bit, Chase. Don't know too much about your backstory, so if you don't mind, just kind of walking us through a little bit how you even became a fan of racing, sprint car racing, and then decided to become an announcer.
Yeah, I mean, getting into just racing in general, my dad back in the day was. From what I've been told and people, I read stories and hear all these stories from people, but he used to be kind of a big deal, they tell me. He ran in the NASCAR Southwest Tour Series, which was back then it was like the step right below the Truck Series. And he used to race a lot against like Ken Schrader, and then like before Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick became big time, they ran in that series, and Matt Crafton and a couple other guys. And my dad won the championship in that in 2001. My uncle was actually the champion as well in the Rookie of the Year in 1998. So like I grew up always going to pavement races, mostly in California. There's a couple pictures floating around when I was like 4 years old in Victory Lane at what was then called Sears Point Raceway, but now Sonoma. My dad won. It's a race that I think it happened 2 or 3 times, but it was called the LA Street Race, and they had the Southwest Tour cars in like a street race in LA, and I think Harvick and a bunch of Cup guys ran, or future Cup guys, whatever you want to say. And my dad won that one. It was like one of the highest paying races of all time in that series. It's like 16,000 to win or something. But my mom was like one of the spotters in the race for my dad. Like back, like it was like a crazy story. But that's awesome. How I got involved in racing. And my dad, it took forever for me to actually drive. I think I was like 14 when I first started, and I don't know why. Maybe I just never said anything like, "Hey, I want to race." But then I said, "Hey, I'd like to try it." And then finally, they got me a go-kart, and I ran it at Red Bluff, mostly Red Bluff and Cycland, Northern California. Raced with some guys that are doing some pretty cool things these days, Tanner Thorson, Rico, Logan Seavey, Tyler Seavey, Colby Copeland, the list, Buddy Kofoy, the list can go on and on and on. The guys that I raced with or were racing with, may not be in the same class as me, but that type of thing. I was never any good. I never won a feature. I won some heat races, some B mains, had a couple top fives here and there. Never won a feature. And then after a while, I just kind of realized I'm not going to make it as a race car driver. Sold my go-kart to buy a real car so I could drive to school every day. And then at one point in time, the announcer that was at Red Bluff, he was getting one weekend he was having his bachelor party, the next weekend he was having his wedding, and that the promoter at Red Bluff said, he knew me obviously from racing and whatnot. And I was doing some kind of Twitter updates and stuff, and I was doing the sprint car or the open wheel updates for Red Bluff Outlaws, I guess you could say. But he's like, hey, you're kind of outgoing. How about you try this announcing thing for 2 races or whatever? So I got up there, and the first race I ever did is on YouTube. Like if you search hard enough, you will find the first race I ever announced. But I did the first 2 races, and at the same time, my buddy, one of my good friends now, Kyler Shaw, who runs fast4media.com, is a kind of a lower level streaming platform that does mostly micros, outlaw karts. Used to do Sprint Car Challenge Tour, and he does a bunch of other stuff out there as well. But he was just getting going and videoing and doing some live streaming stuff there. And after my 2 races, he was like, hey, you're not too bad at this thing. How about you follow me around a little bit, right? So I was like, I was in college, I think maybe first year of college or something. And so that first year, him and I drove for like all over. We went to Idaho, we went to Montana, we went to Washington, Oregon. I don't know if I said Idaho. We went to Arizona, a bunch of places doing outlaw kart and micro races. And then it kind of just, I guess, snowballed a little bit there from there, and got a call from Tim Truex, who used to be Loud Pedal, which I think a lot of us love Loud Pedal and the videos of the Chili Bowl and Indiana Sprint Week, right? And he had me do a couple of USAC races out on the West Coast, and then it kind of just kept going on from there.
Do you ever go back and watch or listen to your first or your old broadcasts, and what do you think of those? Oh
yeah, every like once a year I'll go back and like listen to it or something. It is hilarious because it was actually a really good race, but like the way I was announcing it sounded like a snoozer, right? I was just kind of like talking through it. Like I couldn't like keep up with how fast things are going. If you've ever watched a race at Red Bluff, like the things happen so fast on the track. But it was like a photo finish between like Logan Seavey and Jesse Caldwell. And there was like all these crazy moments and wrecks and sliders and stuff. And I'm just like trying to spit the words out. And I sound like I'm 4 years old. So it's a good video. I might have to send you guys the link after this.
Please do.
Absolutely. It'd be fun to go back and watch that.
So obviously that goes from your Red Bluff days to now announcing with one of the premier sprint car tours on the planet. So talk about how that came about. And I know somebody that's also been really exciting and really helpful for me, Brian Dunlap. How did those conversations go to eventually get that first gig? I believe it's at Terre Haute in 2020, correct?
Yeah, Terre Haute 2020. That was the first race that I worked for the Outlaws. Of course, I'd been to a bunch of races with them before, Gold Cup and whatnot on the West Coast. But I was actually in Indiana working with Fast4 Media and Kyler Shaw at a micro race. We had raced, I think the race we were at was like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The Outlaws were running like, they were running somewhere on Saturday, and then they ran Terre Haute on Sunday. And on Wednesday of that week, I texted Dunlap because the reason I had his phone number was because I had helped those guys out doing the iRacing events when the Outlaws were shut down with COVID. And I announced a couple of Johnny, and then I did some like, not producer work, but like kind of in the background stuff when they did the CBS live shows for iRacing. I was like kind of like a spotter type of thing for different battles on the track and stuff. And so I had his number from that, and I just sent a random text. I was like, hey man, like, what are the chances you guys are looking for a pit reporter for Terre Haute? I'm in the area. I can get a ride over there. I'd love to have a shot or something. He texted me back a couple hours later and said, let's give it a try. And so I hopped in the car with Max Adams, who had just moved to Indiana from California. We drove over there with him, and I think it was him and his dad or something. I got dropped off. I put on the old Dirt Vision polo shirt, which looked like it belonged to a circus. Met the guys, Jackson, and back then it was Hank Silver, and I met Johnny. Well, I already met Johnny because we worked together, but I don't know if he remembered that we worked together. Maybe he forgot, but I met him that night, and then 8 seconds into the broadcast, like here I am, like on camera, talking about the history of Terre Haute and all this stuff, and that was the night that Donny and I got into our first ever spat on the track when I asked him a 14-minute question under an open red. And he kind of gave me some attitude, and then they said, hey, you want to come back on Wednesday for the Brad Doty? Hey, you want to come back for I think it was Summer Nationals at Williams Grove, and they just kept asking me to come back, and then it turned into full time the year after that.
It's crazy how this, a text message here can lead to, fast forward to 2026, what you're doing now. And we're going to have Brian Dunlap on here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be pretty exciting to talk to him about his journey
might have
as
to
well.
ask him. Might have to ask him about that. I'd be curious to hear what he had to say.
The first thing on my mind.
There you go.
We'll have to get both sides of the story there.
Exactly.
So moving forward a little bit more, you had a couple, 2 years? Was it 2 or 3 years that you did infield reporting with the Outlaws?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Was it 2 or 3 years that you were with the Outlaws infield?
I did like half the year of 2020, and then I did all of 21, 22, and 23, I believe. So like 3.5, yeah.
3.5, okay. So when you kind of go make the jump to high limit, how has the pit reporting angle and getting, when you're in the pits and everything translated and maybe shaped your style or how you approach doing play-by-play up in the booth?
Well, I think that one thing that I like to incorporate a little bit into my announcing is kind of like what maybe, and I've never driven a sprint car. I won't ever say that I have, but I have driven race cars before, and I've been good friends with some really good drivers and have talked to them a lot, away from the track, just like BSing back and forth about what have happened during races and whether that's, outlaw guys or California guys, whatever it is. I feel like I've got a lot of knowledge about what the driver's actually feeling out there on the racetrack. And so I try to incorporate that a little bit into my race call, which I kind of got that a little bit from Dylan Welch when he was the USAC announcer. He kind of had that same background, right? He drove midgets, right? He raced a lot. So I like that aspect of it. And I feel like doing the pit reporter thing, talking to so many drivers off mic and obviously on mic as well, I've gotten some insight as to what they're feeling in the race car. And so I like to bring that, aspect of it into my announcing style. And so that's one thing. And I don't know, like also when you're the pit report, Tony Laporta hates being in the infield as the pit reporter because he can't see the race, but I love being in the infield. I feel like there's nothing like being in the infield for a Wing 410 race. I don't like being in the infield for Knoxville, right? I mean, that's a tough one it's tough to see at Knoxville in the infield, but I love going to like smaller tracks and watching these guys get up on the wheel. And so I don't know. I feel like those kind of things help me or make me be a little bit different on the announcing side of things. And then, of course, being the pit reporter for 3 years, you heard Johnny for 85 nights a year. That's all you heard. I was wearing these exact earphones for 80 nights a year, hearing his voice. And obviously I don't want to, copy what he does, right? But obviously he's, in my opinion, probably the best of all time. So you want to try and take a couple things that he does and spin it around and make it your own. But
sure.
That's a good question. Yeah, I never really thought about that.
We moved to the end of 2023, and around Knoxville, we started kind of hearing rumors and rumblings about High Limit going to a full-fledged national tour. What were those thoughts like and discussions like as you kind of made that transition or attempted to make the transition to become the lead voice of the Interstate Batteries High Limit Racing 410 sprint cars?
Well, there wasn't much of an attempt. I was happy doing what I was doing, right? I was like, hey man, I'm the pit reporter for the best racing series on the planet. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't have any desire to go anywhere else. But I had heard, like you said, you're hearing rumors and whatnot, and through the grapevine that, they're not, it sounds like Blake Anderson's not going to do High Limit. They've called all these other guys and it sounds like they can't find anybody that can do the whole series. And so I had texted Kyle Larson, him and I, he was one of those guys that, he raced at Red Bluff at the same time as me. And I've known him for a really long time before he was big time, of course, but I just texted him, I said, hey, and he's always giving me shit because he always loved the we got him racked, we got him stacked, the call to green. And so I just texted him one day out of the blue, and I was just like, hey, we got him racked and stacked next year, question mark with a microphone emoji. And he just texted me back, and I think he said, like, let me talk to Brad about it or something. I was like, okay, well, I shot my shot. That was my attempt of being the high limit announcer. I did not send any more messages, didn't say anything. And that was, I can't remember when that text message happened, but I can say the next time that it got brought up was at Port Royal for the Nittany Showdown. So October usually was when that race was ran with the Outlaws, when they were going to Port Royal. Kyle was there, and he was riding his bike like he always is, like right by the entrance to the track in turn 4. And I was driving by on the Dirt Vision quad or whatever. And I stopped and I was like, hey, what's going on with that text message? And he goes, oh, yeah, Brad and I are talking about it. We're still trying to work some things out or something. I was like, okay, whatever. Like at that point, I'm just like, it's not me. Like, I'm not going to be the announcer. There's no way. And so I just went about my business, right? I went to, Port Royal, went to, I think the Grove, maybe National Open around that time or whatever, World Finals, went in the office and was negotiating for the next year coming up, yada, yada. And then on Thanksgiving Day, which was a weird, I think it was on Thanksgiving, which I don't know why, but Mike Hess calls me, who had left the Outlaws, got fired or whatever, because he went to Lernerville for the High Limit show. And he called me. He's like, hey, what are you doing next year? I was like, come on, Mike. Like, what I'm doing next year. I don't know why you're trying to, pull a fast one on me here. And he's like, well, Kyle, he wants you to be the announcer. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you dead serious? I had to ask him like 8 times, like, are you dead serious? They're choosing me? And he's like, yep. And so we talked, and, and then after that, every day for like a week, I was calling everybody in my phone log to see if I was making the right call and what I should do, and getting advice from, everybody you could think of. And then I went down. I was still employed by the Outlaws. I went down to the race that they run for the 360s at Volusia. I was the announcer for that. That was the first year they did it. And I did a off days with David Gravel. We went and played mini golf, which that footage has never seen the light of day. We did a whole 18 round of mini golf. And David Gravel, I can't remember what kind of car it was. We had this crazy car there, and he took me, and we were doing burnouts down the street, and he was doing like launches off the stoplight and stuff, and I'm holding the camera like a POV shot, and it was going to be a great video. But it never saw the light of day because like 2 days later, I signed on the dotted line with High Limit and formally announced that formally said I was leaving the Outlaws. So it wasn't like I was texting Kyle, like, hey man, what's going? Like, I wasn't like going crazy. I was just like, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I still got a pretty cool job. So
the lost archives of Dirt Vision. We'll never see that.
Yeah, where is that footage? Send that to me. Come on.
Brian, we're going to talk to Brian in a couple weeks. We got to pull that out.
I know you guys are on Dirt Vision, so I don't know if this probably won't be on Dirt Vision. I'm guessing.
This is not on. No.
Okay, I was going to say, well, hey, give me a favor.
That's funny. So could you have imagined, when you were at Terre Haute, getting ripped by Donny, that, in what, 4 or 5 years, that you're going to be the lead guy for a pretty much a brand new national touring series?
No, and I didn't think there'd even be another series at that point, right? I mean, I thought it was going to be Outlaws forever. So absolutely not. And it's still to this day, like, I cannot believe that this is my job is to, my job before that was to do the same exact thing, just in a different role, right? But to be the head guy, like, I honestly never thought that would happen because, it was only one series. There was only one guy. There was one guy that had the job that I was dreaming to have one day, and that was Johnny Gibson. And, I'm honestly obviously I'm happy for a lot of reasons that I got the High Limit gig because, I don't know who is going to replace Johnny. I'm just glad it's not me. Like, I would not want to be the guy that has to follow that act up, so
impossible shoes to fill right there.
High Limit was the perfect way to, cut away from that and try to do my own thing over here without having to like fill the shoes of somebody that is in the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and being compared to that every single night in social media world, I cannot imagine.
Whoever
Good luck to whoever ends up doing that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whoever that is, I am sorry for you right now on March 9th, 2026. I'm sorry for you. It's gonna be tough.
Well, we saw when Tony replaced, I don't want to say replaced, but got like, was it Chet that he replaced, I believe, with USAC?
No, Chet replaced Tony.
Chet
Tony
replaced,
was
okay, I
there,
forgot
and
who,
yeah.
was it Rob before Chet?
Rob Klepper, I think,
Tony?
yeah.
Yeah. So we saw what happened with Tony when he replaced Rob. It was not the greatest first opening weekend, so I can see where you would say that at. But I'm sure it had to be a little bit difficult to leave the comfortability of your job and job that you knew you were one of the best at with the World of Outlaws and Dirt Vision. Was there even a little bit of a hesitation to even leave?
Oh, there was a ton. Yeah. I mean, there was a ton. I mean, like I said, if I could like somehow go back in my phone log, it won't let me go that far back, but like you would not believe I was on the phone like all day for like 7 days in a row. Like just calling my dad, calling my mom, calling my dog, calling my sister's dog, like calling everybody you could think of to just, hey, what do you guys think? Like, they're saying this and these guys are saying this, but if I go over here, I get to do this. But if I stay here, then they're going to give me this, right? There was a lot of negotiations going on. And yes, it was a very hard decision. And I feel like some people think that I just like got up and left and like didn't care at all. No, I mean, the Outlaws are the Outlaws, man. They've been around since 1978. They're I mean, come on, it's the freaking World of Outlaws. I loved working there, man. It was great, and it was an honor to be a part of it. So it was definitely a very, very tough decision, and there was a ton of hesitation involved. I mean, they sent me the paperwork to sign, and I would look at it like 6 times a day, like almost sign it. No, not yet. Oh, wait, okay, now I will. There was a lot of hesitation involved.
We heard the same thing with Brian Walker, last year when we talked with him as well. Like, not to put words in your mouth, you can speak for yourself, but it's like, you don't want to burn bridges. Like you said, this is the World of Outlaws. And at that time, you have to think back that this was just coming off of, this was a midweek series. And now we're taking the leap. We're, essentially in a way replacing the All-Stars. And this is a brand new venture. You don't know if it's going to be a success or not. And, you probably were privy to some information from Brad and Kyle and everybody else that's involved, but it's like you were taking a leap as well. And that, I'm sure that was pretty nerve-wracking and a tough decision to make.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, my dad was one of the many phone calls I made, and he said, hey, if you do this, like, you get you're not signing unless you get a 2-year contract. So that if this goes sideways after year 1, you've got something coming in, because like you said, I mean, if I left for High Limit for 1 year, I don't think I'm going to be able to turn around and go back through that door and do it all over again. And, there was some tough phone calls to make. Obviously, I called Brian Dunlap, and I called him a bunch of times. And the last time I called him, I was like, look, man, like, I mean, this is just too good of a deal to pass up. Like, this is the job I wanted. Like, I wanted to be an announcer, and they're giving me the opportunity. And that was a tough phone call, calling, Jim Chappelli, who's like the head guy, I guess he'd be like right below Dunlap. Tough call there. And then I called Johnny, and I was like, listen, Johnny, like, here's what's going on, man. Like, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I was like almost in tears, like calling Johnny. I was like, this is like the best announcer of all time. I've been getting to work with him, and now I have to tell him that like I'm leaving, So it was definitely tough.
That first night at East Bay, were there any nerves? I feel like going into a brand new role, there's got to be a little bit of nerves, no matter how many times you public spoke or anything. Like, this is a whole new adventure, a whole new series that just started. How were you feeling on that first night?
There was definitely nerves. Yeah. I mean, but it's going to sound weird. Like, the only time that I was like super nervous was right at the beginning when we opened the show, and then like I'm on camera, I'm on camera in the booth, like, and obviously with Dirt Vision, I was on the camera all the time, but like for some reason, like that one, I felt the magnitude because there's so many people watching this race to see how the first ever High Limit National race goes. And I kind of like felt that. I was like,
don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up.
Exactly. I was like, dude, please don't screw this up, man. Like, so like when I was on camera, like I went back and watched it, like, I don't know, like 6 months later or something. And I was like, dude, I look like a freaking idiot. Like, I don't know. But after I got off camera, it was, I felt like everything was fine. It was just announcing a race, so which I had done a little bit before that, not a ton, definitely not in sprint cars that much, but after getting off camera, it definitely the nerves went to the side quite a bit more than they were at the very beginning.
Yeah. Had you worked much with Tony TLP before that?
No, I mean, not directly. I guess he did make, because when we were both at WRG, he was the camera guy, right? He was like doing content. He did a content piece about Dirt Vision. It was me, Jackson Steele, and Zach Aaron, and Tony followed us around for a whole day at Attica. And obviously, when we're at the same track every single weekend, I'm going to talk to him. We're going to see each other. We're going to converse and travel a little bit together, go to dinners and whatnot together every now and again. So not really working with him. I mean, technically we were under the same company, but like not directly working with him like I am now, so yeah.
The reason I ask is like, you guys have seemingly just hit it off from the start. Like your guys' dynamic, if you and Johnny were great also. But I just, you guys seem like you've worked together, announcer and infield reporter for like 10 years. And it seemed like that from the jump. I don't know if you felt that same way. But how has it been kind of learning and growing and developing that working relationship with Tony? Because I think you guys are killing it.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely definitely like feels natural. I admire and I'm jealous of his wittiness that he has. I wish that I could come up with some of the stuff that he does right off the cuff, and I'm trying to get better at that. And I've been watching a lot of Kill Tony, Tony Hinchcliffe's comedy show, and obviously that's a lot of funny, witty moments in that show. So hopefully I have some material to use when he comes at me on the broadcast this year. But it's been great. I mean, and it's not fake, right? I mean, that's what a lot of people ask us, like, oh man, you guys. It's
like you can't fake that for however 80 nights or whatever.
Some people are like, you guys planned this, like this is all planned. Like, no, I mean, it just happens as it's happening, right? And when you travel with a guy, when you're in the same car with somebody, and you go to lunch and dinner with them every day for, let's just say, like this first swing, we're gonna be gone for like 20 days or something. Like when you're with somebody for that long, number one, you're gonna get a lot of dirt on them to use when they do something stupid. Number two, you're gonna have those conversations driving up down the car, like, hey, like those deep conversations. Like it just naturally happens when you're with the same person for a while. It's not just me and him. Like, it's me, Brian Walker, Anthony Carini, and then you're gonna have those moments where you're yelling at each other, you hate each other. So I mean, all those things combine into what you see on the broadcast. So I think people seem to really like it. And the one thing we get the most comments on is like, it feels like people say that when they're watching, it feels like they're watching with us on the couch or whatever. Like we're in the living room with them, So I feel like that's pretty cool. That I don't think I ever got anybody saying that to me when I was with the Outlaws, and the dynamic between me and Johnny was a lot different than it is with Tony and I.
And I feel like it was good, but like you said, it was different, It's
just different. Yeah. It's more, it was more, straight and narrow, right? I mean, it's more like get the suit and tie up. There were some funny moments in there, like at was at Cedar Lake. I went fishing and caught a wrench in the pond in the infield, and the one where I'm in the canoe, and like stuff like that. But like most of the time, it was like, this is business. This is very serious. We're the best series. We want to make sure that we come across that way.
And we hear Johnny talk all the time about one of the hardest things to do in racing is be the pit reporter, and how hard it is to continue to fill that downtime, especially when you're just kind of going off the cuff and don't have a lot to talk about, or you're not really having like a script. How nice is it for you to have that infield pit reporting experience to kind of help Tony out when it becomes difficult to fill that time?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, fill time. I mean, I never loved hearing that word or those words. Hey, we got to fill time. I'm like, oh man, I got to fill time. Like, but you'd always figure something out, right? Whether it's going on the track and talk about the track, or you find a driver, or one time I interviewed a guy in the hot dog stand. Like, I mean, so I know what it's like when it gets to that filling time portion for the pit reporter, because really the fill time is their time to shine, right? That is their time to be, not only on camera and talking, but like trying to find something to keep the people watching at home invested and tuned in. And Tony is really good. Tony is way better at the pit reporter deal than I ever was. Like, I mean, he does it the right way. Like, he gets the personalities and, all he gets the drivers to, talk about random stuff other than just their car. Like, my deal, that wasn't my side of things. I tried to talk more about how the race night was going, how their car was doing, how the track was going, right? And so I liked the way that Tony does it way more than I did, because people want to learn more about these drivers, not learn more about, how their car felt in the heat race, so he does it the right way. And I think he's obviously a huge asset to our series. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't think, well, you might have maybe, but there's been some little hints of the new Tony and Chase t-shirt coming out this year. We had one last year. Did you guys see the one last year or no?
Is it the one that you have hanging up in your videos?
Yeah,
Step Brothers?
The Step Brothers one. Yeah. So we got a new one this year, and it'll debut at Las Vegas. But basically it's Tony is Bob Ross with an afro, and he's painting me on a canvas. And
God.
And like on the back of the shirt it says, let's Bob Ross always said, like, let's put a happy little tree right here, and it says, let's put a happy little announcer right here on the back. So
amazing.
Yeah, like we never thought that we'd like have a t-shirt, and anybody would buy it, right? Like last year we sold out of that Step Brothers one like 3 times. Like people loved it. So we decided to make another one. But yeah, people seem to really enjoy the dynamic we have, and hopefully we can continue that this year and do it, on TV as well for a couple times.
Tony Laporta as Bob Ross. Now that is going to be an image in my brain for way too long. Before we move into shifting gears a little bit here, we did get some comments. You definitely trigger people with your coming to the green call. What started that? And what started that? And why do you choose to do it the way that you do?
Yeah, you either hate it or you love it, right? I mean, I feel like I get more comments of people like they tweet at me or they tag me or they text me and say, hey, I love this, more than like people don't say anything to me, but they hate it, right? I mean, I just I'll scroll through my For You page on Twitter and I'll say, oh man, he's freaking doing this thing again, right? But it's either, like I said, it's either you hate it or you love it. And, I started it. Now I kind of have to keep going with it, I feel like. But that was something I did, like maybe the 4th race I ever announced was at Cycleland Speedway in Chico. And I was like thinking, I was like driving down the highway and I was like, man, like, and the drive from my house to Cycling was always like an hour and a half or so. So it's a long drive. And I'm by myself. I'm, man, like, what would be a cool way to open up the race? And this is me when I was like 17 or something, right? And I'm like an idiot. So I'm like, oh, I gotta have an open, right? So and I just started thinking of stuff, and like this thing rhymed, and then this thing rhymed, and like I said, and this one too, you can go back on YouTube and find the very first time I ever did it, and it wasn't what it is now. It was like, it was like Cycleland Speedway. You got them racked, we got them stacked, and you got the grandstands back, and now it's we got them, we got whatever. And so I did it that one time, and then like the cycling community loved it. Like everybody was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And so then I just kept doing it. And then that first race at East Bay, I was like, man, should I do it? Should I bring it out with high limit? I don't know. I was like texting a couple people, what do you guys think? And then I did it. And now, I feel like I can't really not go
There's
back.
no going back.
You can't go back now, right?
It's your call. Yeah. It's your call.
You had done it at Volusia, I'm pretty sure, a couple weeks prior. So, I mean, you had to have done it.
Yeah, maybe I did. I can't remember.
I have to look back. I'm 95% sure. Usually I can remember dumb stuff like that, so I need to go check myself. But like, I feel like I remember
that.
saying.
I might have. There's definitely a chance
I'm
of
pretty
it.
sure. At least the last night you did. I'm pretty sure. Again, I remember the dumbest things like that, so I feel like I vaguely remember hearing that. But that was like what, 2-3 years ago now.
Yeah, that was 2 or 3. Yeah, 2024, I think, maybe. Yeah. So, yeah, and I like you said, I'm kind of stuck with it now. But that first race at East Bay, man. Before that, I did those 2 Volusia races. Like before that, I'd only announced like maybe 4 wing sprint car races ever. Most of it was USAC stuff on smaller tracks. Like when I went to Volusia, I was like, holy cow, I can't even see the car on the backstretch, right? So doing the 410 stuff was definitely a big adjustment from when I was doing outlaw carts and USAC West Coast midgets which were 15 car fields. So it was definitely a big adjustment. And but anyway, I got off on a tangent there. But yeah, we got them racked, we got them stacked. I guess it's here to stay.
I like it. So shifting gears a little bit here, before we get into 2026 high limit season, you created your YouTube channel back in 2023, and It sounds like you have a pretty similar kind of reasoning for why we kind of started doing what we are doing here as well, specifically around Knoxville. But dive into that just a little bit. What got you into wanting to do this? Did you ever think it was going to take kind of on the life that you're doing now?
Well, I'll back up a little bit. Like, when I was making the decision whether I wanted to stay with the Outlaws or go to High Limit, there was, this side, there was like all these pros, and like this side was all these pros, but then there was like some cons over here, some cons over here. One of the cons was like, I wasn't allowed to have my own YouTube channel at WRG. Like I tried to put out a video and they didn't like it. They wanted me to have it all on Dirt Vision, right? And then when you put it on Dirt Vision, it's got to be, it's got to meet these specifications, and you got to say certain things. And you can't say this, right? And I was like, man, like, and then I talked to Brad, and he's like, you can do whatever you want, man. You can say whatever you want, talk about whatever you want. And I was like, okay, I kind of like that, right? So then I started it, and the main reason I started was, I just feel like people are dying for more content in this sport. You see the NASCAR stuff. There's 432 NASCAR YouTubers. There's like 6 maybe sprint car YouTubers. And so I was like, there's an opening here, and I feel like the sport's getting more popular and more popular, and I'm hoping that I can grow with it. And, I knew it was going to be a tough start, because the format that I do it in with the whiteboard, people are so used to all the glitz and the glam and all the editing and all the clips of the videos and the voiceovers and all the other stuff. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And so basically what I did was my channel is basically a parody of a guy. His YouTube name is The Hockey Guy. He covers the NHL. It's the exact same thing, whiteboard with all the magnets of the teams and everything. And when I first started watching him, it took me a while to like get into it. I was like, man, like, what's this guy doing? He's like 52 years old. He's just standing in front of a whiteboard. And the more I watched him, I was like, I like the simplicity of this. And so then I took that and I implemented it into my own channel and got my own. Obviously, I got way too many magnets. I spent way too much money on them. But now here we are, I think 7,500 subscribers. And,
hell yeah.
My biggest video happened last year when Donny and TSR split. I got 32,000 views, which was the biggest video of my entire career. And then when the rest of them average like maybe 1,500. But it's going pretty well. I enjoy doing it. And, people seem to be coming around to it finally. There's still some haters out there. They're like, oh, man, this guy, come on, this is low effort, But I'm saying low. I got to have good handwriting for this deal, man. Come on. I had terrible handwriting in middle school, man. I've been having to put a lot of effort into having better handwriting so people can read it.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have the detractors, and I totally agree with you. Like that's, initially why we started Knoxville Nights was because I love Knoxville Raceway. I've been going there my entire life, and nobody talked about it. So like you said, you had like Justin Fiedler with Dirt Tracker, the Drivers Projects. That's like really the 3 that I, was used to watching and listening to. And, thankful to, get people like you on here now to talk about things, because I'm fully with you that as the sport grows, you kind of want, I don't know, this kind of sounds bad that I'm saying it. You kind of want the right people talking about it in a way, like that are in it for the right reasons. That's, I guess, what I'm ultimately trying to say. And I feel like we're all of us are growing, and we all are wanting to row in the same direction and make sure that the sport's in good hands because we love it.
Yeah, I've been watching, like I said, I've been watching some of your guys' stuff, and it's just more people talking about it, more drivers getting interviewed and showing their face, and people hearing from them and whatnot. And obviously we can't be talking about this without talking about Jeremy Elliott and what he does at Sprint Car.
Oh, of course. As well. I knew I was forgetting somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. The live show on Tuesday has become a weekly thing for me.
That's fun.
It's a staple. It's a staple of the week. Gotta watch on it, because there's the comments on that, man. There's been
the calls, the comments. Yeah, I know you call in. You call in every once in a while.
The retirement home, always calling in on Jeremy's show. So, yeah.
And honestly, that's a good thing. Like I feel, I'm probably the oldest one here, but it's like YouTube it definitely skews younger, and we need the young crowd into sprint car racing. And I think this is a great way of doing it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Rico's another prime example, man. Yes. He just got going on his YouTube thing last year, and I mean, he blew right by me in the subscriber count, and now he is just getting huge numbers. Tanner Holmes, of course, huge numbers over there. And you could just see with Tanner alone, like the kids at the racetrack, what the racetrack with Tanner Holmes, all these kids are always around his t-shirt, trailer, his car. Yeah, I mean, the YouTube thing, it's huge. And like you said, I think it's a great way to get into that younger demographic for sure.
What are some of the things you've learned by doing it? Like, have you learned any new tricks, learned how to kind of display yourself a little bit better? What are some things that you've kind of learned as you went through this process of building your own YouTube channel?
Well, I mean, like I said, like people don't like the simplicity of what I do. But at the very beginning, it was even more simple than what it is now. Like I used a cat tower to hold my phone up. I used I didn't have any microphones, so I was just using
the back of a car once.
I was in the back of a car. I didn't have a tripod. Like I said, I had a ring light going right here. I never had one of those. So, if I'm going to make it a simple channel, at least give good lighting, give good sound, right? Give a good angle of what's going on, But one thing that I like the most about it is with all the research I do for the videos, specifically with the high limit guys, because obviously that's what I do on a weekly basis. Like I can take and remember what I do from the YouTube videos and use them on the broadcast when something happens on the racetrack. And when I first started doing it, I never really thought that would come into play. But there's been several times, like last year I made a video, or was it? No, it was 24, I think, actually, when Brad had that like 32 race winless drought. I had all the numbers on the board of the days and when the last race was. And then he won at Port Royal, and I actually remembered that stuff. And on the call to the checkered, like I was kind of, saying those numbers and stats as he was coming. I would have known that if I didn't have the YouTube channel. Yep. I've been using that stuff a lot when it comes to the broadcast on Flow with the high limit stuff.
That's really cool. It's a must watch. Like I said, really enjoy what you're doing there. And I think it kind of ties us right into, talking about high limit. Want to touch on a couple things from last year that I thought was pretty sweet, and then move into our little bit of a preview for 2026. Something that really sticks out, some good, some bad also from last year. And I'd love to hear what, some of the points that really stuck out to you from 2025 as well. But Eldora was a really big weekend, I'd say. Obviously we had the bad with the injuries and the guys that you got, lost for certain periods of time. But you were on live TV on FS1. What was that like when you heard first that was going to happen? And how much differently did you have to prepare, if at all, going into that weekend versus a normal night that's on Flow?
Well, when I heard about it, my first thought was, who's going to be the announcer? I didn't think it was going to be me. I was like, there's no way they were going to put me on TV. But obviously they did with Blake Anderson. But and to be honest, I feel like the preparation wise, I feel like I did the same thing I normally do. More. I don't know if dummy it down's the right word, but there's going to be a lot of people watching for the very first time. And so trying to explain things a little bit, more about how the format works or the cars or why the track's doing this or whatever it is. There was more of that because you're watching on Flow. If you have a Flow subscription, more than likely, you know what you're watching, right? If you're watching on Fox Sports 1, you got a regular cable TV, maybe you're just flipping through the channels and you land on it and you have no idea what's going on, So there was a little bit more of that for sure. But man, to have a race on TV at Eldora and then the race literally had everything. Tyler Walker back. That was so random. Tyler Walker's in this race on TV. He's just got back and all of a sudden, the perfect timing, Tyler Walker returns and he's ended up racing on live TV, wins the C main or whatever it was. Or was that the King's Royal? But anyway, he was at the Joker's
They're all
jackpot too.
Together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you had a great race up front between, I think it was Rico and Kyle. And then obviously at the very beginning with that big wreck. And that was not what you want to see on a live TV broadcast when you have a short window to get it in. And so that threw us for a curveball. So we know what to do now if that hopefully it never happens again. But if it does, we kind of know what to expect in that situation for live TV. But it was kind of goes back to the East Bay thing when you asked if I was nervous for that one. Once again, the only time I was really nervous was when they first came in and it was me and Blake sitting in those chairs and Michael Rigsby was up there and he's getting all these lights going the right direction. And he's moving our chair and he's making sure we got our things behind. I'm like, holy cow, dude, we're about to be on freaking TV, in here in 8 seconds. Right. And so, that part was really scary. But I went back and watched and I was like, man, I kind of the East Bay one, I was pissed. I was like, man, I look like an idiot. But the Fox Sports one, I feel like I did pretty good. Like, I don't usually toot my own horn, but I feel like I nailed the Open for the Fox Sports race. And then obviously Blake, he's one of the best, and it was great to have him up there. But crazy I still cannot believe that I announced a race on live TV, the first one in like 5 years, and now we get to do it a couple more times this year.
And then obviously when we go from Eldora and then we go to the second high limit international race at Perth, talk about that experience and kind of what you learned from the first one that you guys took into the second one to make it an even better experience.
Well, one thing with that is I wish we could, the old SpongeBob meme, like pick it up and push it to somewhere else, which somewhere else being the United States. Can we bring Perth Motorplex to the USA? I don't know. I don't care where it's at as long as it's in the continental United States. I'll bring it over here. It is, one thing, the main thing I learned from being down there are the fan base is insane. They are, and we got great fans here in the United States, but I have never seen any race besides Chili Bowl where people are lined up at the gates at like 8 o'clock in the morning, like ready to get in. As soon as the gates are open, they're running for their seat. Now I see that at the Chili Bowl.
It's like a college football game or something like that, or a basketball or something.
Yeah, and you see it at Eldora, right? But they don't open the gates until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something, right? There were people lined up in the morning. I don't know if they're eating, breakfast, sitting in their chairs, waiting outside or what, but they were there. And there's so many more kids. That's another thing. There were so many more kids at the races in Australia. I don't know why. But that was my main takeaway. And outside of it being probably the best facility in dirt track racing, those were the two main things. And it just races so good. All 3 nights there, banger, just banger after banger. And it's a lot of fun to go down there and check it out. I don't like the flight, obviously, but once you get there, it's not bad.
We had ultimate FOMO and got to get down there. And ironically, we talked to Skip Jackson last night for Knoxville nights, and he said the same thing about everything Perth Motorplex. He called that the best facility in the world right now, sprint car racing wise. And I can believe it. The vibe there right before the feature started, that looked like a freaking concert, not a damn sprint car race. That was. I don't think, like you said, packaging that up and just being able to move that would be like the ultimate sprint car racing experience. They have got it figured out, and I'm curious to see what they can do in the years to come.
Yeah, closest thing to it is probably Lucas Oil, Wheatland, Missouri. It just has that same type of vibe. But it's funny you mentioned Skip Jackson. A little bit of a tangent here. When I was still racing, Kyler Shaw, the guy I mentioned earlier, Fast 4 Media, he used to have a go-kart, and his brother had one too, Cohen Shaw. And Cohen had left his go-kart at Red Bluff, at the QRC shop one night or one weekend. He raced, and then he wasn't coming back, but he was going to leave his go-kart there. And Kyler, I said, Kyler, hey, would Cohen get mad if I race his go-kart next week? And he goes, probably. And I was like, well, what if I changed wings and just signed in under a fake name? He's like, yeah, you should do it. So I signed in as Skip Jackson to the Red Bluff Outlaws one night. Skip Jackson probably has no idea, but. Yeah, I ran under Skip Jackson. That was my racing name for one night, and I can't remember if I wrecked or not, but I probably did. But that was a pretty good memory.
That's awesome.
So we'll kind of transition from last year to now looking forward to this year. Obviously, this weekend we have the high limit opener at Las Vegas. Kind of what are you looking forward to start off the season, and what are you looking forward to move on as we move forward into the entire season? I know there's some new tracks coming up. We got Davenport, Dakota, Shelby County, Big Sky, just to name a few. You have the Hockett on your schedule now. What are some things you're looking forward to as we begin to start your season this weekend, this Thursday, actually?
Yeah, there's a lot. You mentioned the Hockett race. That's going to be a huge hit, I think. 3 nights there at Lucas Oil. With Power Eye, going to be a really good car count in both non-wing and wing. The doubleheader at Kokomo for that Clausen race, I think that's going to be really cool. People have been dying for a doubleheader with wing sprint cars at Kokomo, so be great to go there for that. And Big Sky in Montana for the Routine race. I've only heard good things about that track, and so be cool to get up to Montana. I've been there before for a go-kart race, but never to the sprint car track, and I've heard a lot of good things. I think we've got 13 new tracks on the schedule this year, which is a lot, I feel like. And so there's a bunch that I've personally never been to, a bunch of the drivers have never been to before. So that's one of the main things I look forward to is when we go to places that, nobody has any idea what's going to happen. Like there's hardly any video, and the only video you can find is a street stock race or something. Like nobody has a notebook. The prime example of that was when the Outlaws went to the Rev 21, I think, and it was just an absolute thriller between Gravel, Swede, and I think like Brian Brown or something. Like it was like a mini Lawrenceburg, dude. It was sick. There was no video. There was never a sprint car race. There was like 2 races ever, and it was just crazy. So hopefully we get a situation like that at one of those tracks you were just talking about. But we got a great group of drivers, of course. They're going to run the series full time. Excited to see what Kerry Madsen will be made of here. Get him back on a tour full time. There's going to be a lot to watch for when it comes to new crew chief and driver combos. I don't think I wrote it down today how many new crew chief and driver combos there are that have either 0 races together or less than 10. Kerry and Ty Wolfgang, Cy Lynch and Heath Moyle, Chase Randall and Adam Wallace, Gio and Eric Prutzman, of course, Dayson Pursley and Jarrett Martin, Tanner Holmes and Sean Strasbaugh, Justin Peck and Brandon Hickman, Brenham Crouch and Tyler Swank, Hank Davis with his new team, of course. And Brent
I think you're just naming the entire roster.
And Brent Marks has a whole new crew, right? So the only guys I didn't mention that, Danny Sams, Aaron Reutzel, Tanner Thorson, and Rico. And Rico's got a whole new team, like a whole new, Tony Stewart deal, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see who gets off on the right foot here with all this newness, right? So I didn't realize there was, and then the Outlaws even have a lot of that going on too. So there was a lot of silly season with drivers, but there's a lot as well with the crew chief stuff too.
Absolutely, and I am so stoked. I think the thing I'm probably looking forward to most is Reutzel versus Rico this year. I think that was shaping up to be just an absolutely epic title fight all the way down to the end, which we already, ended up having that anyway. But having Reutzel back, that dude he's just got to be a treat to have on the road with you for so many nights. And also seeing Tyler Courtney come back from injury, I thought that was really cool. Him getting a win. It was a 360, of course, but getting some wins coming right back into the car. Those guys getting back on the tour is probably going to feel a little bit back to normal having those guys around full time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it'll definitely feel weird not having Brad Sweet out there on the track for sure. But getting those 2 guys back, of course, they're going to be the betting odds. Probably those will be the top 3 guys in points. But I'm very curious to see what the next steps look like for guys like Peck. He's back to Chevys. He's got a new crew chief. They've already won a couple races. He was super fast last year, and then the wheels kind of came off around race 20. But I think you'll see him take another step forward. Tanner Thorson, of course, 2-time winner last year. If he can figure out the big tracks, I don't see any reason why he couldn't be a top 5 guy in the points. And then very curious to see what Dayson Pursley looks like. We've seen him a few times, right, at Volusia and at Talladega, but that's a lot of pressure, to replace Brad Sweet. And so I'm very curious how that'll go with a rookie crew chief helping him out. And will he be the face of KKR for the next 10 years? We'll have to wait and see how it all goes this year. So those are kind of 3 guys that I'm looking at to see if they can maybe take the next step and improve all their numbers overall.
Dawson, I feel like he's like looking at our notes here because you just checked basically the next 3 things that we have there. That's funny.
I was starting to get a little bit scared. I was like, I don't know what to ask next, but like,
you share your screen off to the side, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was over here I was trying to think, I was going through everything over here. Obviously, we saw, and we will kind of go through our predictions in a little bit, but we saw Cy Lynch really struggle in 2026 early on in the season, but we started to see him really pick it up at the end of the year. Kind of what are you expecting to see out of him and Chase Randall and even, Brenham Crouch going into 2026?
Yeah. Cy last year came in obviously year 1. And I feel like it doesn't matter who you are first year, it's going to be some struggles doing what we're doing, so didn't really have, that bona fide crew chief that has been a crew chief for years and knows exactly what's going on out there. But for him to have Heath Moyle coming over from Brent Marks and all the success that he's had, all the experiences he's had of running a team and with the equipment and just even the small things, right? I mean, where to park the trailer at, what car washes work and, which ones don't work, where can I, what hotel should we go? It's just small things like that I think Heath Moyle will be able to take to this team and help out a lot. Plus, being able to wrench on the car and give Cy Lynch a good car. Because like you said, last year at the end, he was starting to get going. Chase Randall was starting to get going last year, I thought. The stats might not show it, but he was running podium at Path Valley. He was running on the podium at Lakeside, ended in a crash. Had a podium at Eldora for the 4 Crown, had a good run at Lawrenceburg. So, and that was with Adam Wallace, and now he's got Adam Wallace full time. He only had Adam Wallace for 10 races last year. So those two guys, new crew chiefs, I think that's going to help a ton. And then Brennan Crouch, man, I mean, it was podium at Port Royal, top 5 at Skagit, and then another top 5 somewhere. I mean, Brennan Crouch was coming on late last year. I am a little worried though, because he was seeming like he was building some rapport with Barry Jackson, and now they kind of throw him a curveball, right? And he's working with Swank, which maybe Swank can talk to Brennan Crouch a little bit better than Barry Jackson can. I feel like Swank's like a 20-year-old, 40-year-old, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just like a young old guy, right? And maybe that gels better with Brennan Crouch. I have no idea. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes, because Crouch has been making some steady gains every single year, and we'll see if he can continue that trend here in 2026.
For sure. I think that's an interesting one. And I know that they're different series and everything, but having Donny in that team, and again, they're different teams in the way that dynamic is, but just be interesting seeing how that goes. You don't have to make predictions if you don't want to, but we got Blake. Blake was, he made some. We got picks for our championship for both the full season and also our midweek picks. And then we've got most wins, rookie of the year, which I think it's just 2, right? We have Tanner and Hank Davis as the rookie of the year candidates, and then also most improved. So we'll leave the championship picks, I guess, for last. Dawson, you think that probably leave those for last? Regular season, or not regular, full season, most wins. Blake had Rico Abreu. He had it down because he's had 10 plus in the last 3 seasons. Basically what we just talked about with the same crew. Same old Rico is his pick. I've got Aaron Reutzel with the most wins, and Dawson, you went with Tyler Courtney. What do you think of those, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
kind of chalk there, but
Yeah, I think it's going to be Reutzel to me. I can't remember how many he had this year, 6. But obviously missed 10 races, and
he had 1 midweek, and he had 7 in the full season. So
yeah, so
8.
there you go, and then missed 10 races. So I mean, he probably would have got maybe 2 more if he would have been in the car. So I'm going to go with Reutzel to win the most races. I think I think you can't go wrong between the 3 guys that were mentioned: Tyler, Aaron, and Rico. So those are all pretty good, I would say.
And I picked Tyler because he's won 10 plus, just kind of like what Blake was saying. Over the last 3 of the last 4 years, easy enough for me to say. He has familiarity with that car. Nothing's really changed. You just got to execute and get back to speed after a really unfortunate situation last year, kind of taking him out. And he was doing really well before that. As we move into Rookie of the Year, I picked Tanner Holmes. Blake picked Tanner Holmes. He said he had a strong showing to start at Volusia. He knows the pressure to perform. Could even see him stealing a win on the West Coast. And Josh had Hank Davis. Josh, what did you think about Hank Davis?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I just had a hunch. I think it's going to be an interesting fight between them both. I feel like Tanner has maybe traveled a little bit more in a 410 than Hank has, but I think that they're both going to go, they're going to ride the roller coaster of their first time on a national 410 tour. And I think that they're both going to have surprising performances. We already saw what Tanner did down at Volusia. I think they looked really good. Curious to see what you have to say, Chase.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the safe pick. I think Tanner Holmes is definitely the safe pick, but I do think the ceiling is really high for Hank Davis. I mean, he's only got 37 410 starts in his entire life, and he's already won 3 times. Swept the short track nationals like no big deal, right? I mean, it wasn't the greatest field in history, but I mean, still, to sweep that race, get a $20,000 check. I mean, there's guys that race their whole lives trying to get a $20,000 win, and he's already got one in a very short amount of time. I talked to Michael Dutcher a lot here recently, and they've got 4 new motors from Jason Myers Racing last year. They got Colby Thornhill's old, and when I say old, I mean like his former rig, which is like brand new. I mean, it's a gangster rig. They got plenty of chassis. I mean, they've got all the equipment to go out there and succeed. I think the ceiling is really high for Hank Davis. I think he's going to have some really good moments, but it's definitely going to be a learning year for sure for him. He's got 22 new tracks he's going to. I'm a big Hank Davis fan, but I'm going to go with the safe pick here and go with Tanner Holmes for Rookie of the Year.
And look, I kind of struggle with this one. I struggle with this one because I think they both have an equal chance, but I decided on Tanner Holmes because simply he ran half a national tour basically in that Shark Racing 1A car, and he showed some speed in that 1A car. So I feel like that was kind of like the deciding factor for me, and he showed some speed at Volusia as well, as kind of what Blake was mentioning earlier. And I feel like they started out a little bit rough, but I think they're starting to find their feet underneath them, and they're starting to get some speed. And I think going into the rest of the year in Vegas, they're going to do really well, because I think they do really well on half miles.
And that car, I mean, it qualifies so good. I mean, you saw Dawson, his qualifying, he was the second best qualifier last year behind Reutzel, and so I think that's going to be huge for Tanner as well.
And Tanner was what? I think he said three in a row. He was P3 in qualifying with the Outlaws as well. So
yeah,
already continuing that here this year. Curious to see how that goes out at Vegas to start this season. Most improved, you can kind of just classify this however the heck you want. There's no real metric here. Gio Scelzi was Blake's pick. Said since 2018, he's won at least 2 races in a season, turned around and won 4 or more the very next season. He's motivated. He's got a new sponsor, new team, wanting to make a splash. I think that's a great pick. I'm going with Brent Marks because we saw they were really turning it on at the end of the year. He was fighting for multiple wins, picked up at least 1 or 2 wins there towards the end of the year. And Dawson, you ended up going with Cy Lynch.
And the reason I picked Cy Lynch is simply because I feel like the beginning of the year was really unfair. He had a lot of mechanical issues, and that was just unfortunate for him. And then he had 11 top 10s in 2025, and 9 of those 11 came in July or after, and that's when we showed the most speed. And then he almost won a race at Lucas Oil in October. I forgot who got by him, but somebody got by him late, and then he just finished 3rd, I believe, in that one. So he showed speed. I think he's going to show speed consistently in 2026, and that'll allow him to kind of get up there and be the top 6, 7 in high limit points, see kind of how he goes from there.
6, 7.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mine would be, and this one's one where you could, I mean, we're all going to have somebody different. I think that there's a lot of options for this one, but I'm going to go with Chase Randall. I think that, I mentioned it earlier about how he finished the year last season with Adam Wallace. And then this year, he went to Volusia. It was his first time there. He went to Talladega, first time there, trying to get the bugs worked out right. But I think that with what they showed last year, and Chase Randall can drive a race car. He's made the Nationals twice. He's been on the podium before with both High Limit and the Outlaws. So I'm going to pick Chase Randall for my most improved. And I made a video on my YouTube not too long ago talking about the 5 guys going for the top 8 in points. And I think he was my pick for the top 8. And my second pick was Kerry Madsen. But if Chase Randall does get to the top 8, that would mean he improved a lot. So that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, and again, we kind of talked about it, and it's a running theme with all of the shows that we talk about with guys that have either been on their first year on tour or whatever. But that jump from year 1 to year 2 is big usually. So really curious to see what he can get done this year as well. We'll do the midweek series championship first. Tyler Courtney is the pick from Mr. Blake Walker. And he said that he has the feeling that having to sit on the couch for basically the end of the half of last year is going to motivate him more. This was kind of his series, if you will, with the All-Stars before everything started taking off. And he probably wants to get back in the title conversations. And midweek is a great way to do that. I went with the defending champ, Rico Abreu, and so did you, Dawson. I think our picks probably speak for themselves.
Well, Rico excels on bull rings, and I think the biggest track in the Midweek Money Series is Lernerville. And he already has wins at 4 of the 13 tracks on the Midweek Money Tour, and it's just a smaller slate that you have to be consistent in. And I feel like with it's not a new program by any means, it's still a new team. So I feel like early on they might struggle a little bit. But I think the Midweek Money Series starts in April at Eagle, so they have a little bit of time there, and I feel like it's just a perfect spot for them to get to that speed, and they'll just excel throughout the entire Midweek Money Series on all the bull rings.
I'm going to go off the board a little bit, and I'm going to go with the guy that was leading the midweek series going into the last race last year, and that was Tanner Thorson, who also really excels at the bull rings. I mean, he was so good at that performance he had at Red Cedar. Him and Enrico and Kyle were dicing it up, and obviously he's good at Lernerville. We talked about that being the biggest track on the midweek schedule. So I'm going to say take Thorson. I mean, it's a little bit of a longer, I think it's 16 races this time, so it's a little bit of a longer sample size, but Tanner Thorson was right there last year, and I think maybe this year, just to be a little bit different, I think he might get it done.
I really waffled on picking him, honestly. I was very impressed with the performances he put out there, and I totally forgot to mention this in the beginning. I think he was your most recent guest in the High Limit Room also. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, he was. We actually recorded another one today with Wikipedia, but he was the last driver we had on the show, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good conversation. Definitely go make sure you check that out if you have not already. And then the big one, the full season championship. Blake went out on the limb and went with Rico to go back to back on that one. He'll have his off nights, he said, just like last season, but they tasted the title success last year, and it's going to be hard to go back from that. I went with Aaron. That dude, you want to talk about being motivated? I think he's going to be a scary guy coming out of the gates here this year, especially after what happened last year at Vegas. And I think that this is Aaron's year. It's going to be fun to watch him being back in the car full time this year. And then Dawson, you went with Sunshine to get it done.
Absolutely. And Sunshine, before the injury, they had 26 high limit races. He finished in the top 10 22 times. And of those 22 times, he finished in the top 5 15 times. And then he ran also 13 World of Outlaw races. He's pretty good. I mean, I'm a little concerned with getting up to speed again after an injury like that and sitting on the couch for that long. But then he goes out and wins the big Gator with the 360s at Volusia. So that kind of tempered or made my expectations a little bit higher, I think. And then he has that championship pedigree. I mean, he won with the All-Stars back in 21 and 22 with that same exact team. And before he got injured, he was only 19 points back of Aaron Reutzel for the championship with high limit.
Yeah, I feel like if there was a category of who will have the most podiums this year, I would have taken Sunshine. He's just so consistent, and obviously you got to be consistent to win a championship. But I think I'm going to take Reutzel too. I feel like he was just insanely good in qualifying, which is so important when it comes to big time sprint car racing. So I also kind of want to see anybody else win the championship, just because the storyline of having 3 different champions in 3 years, I think would be a really cool thing and a good look for the series. Just the parity of all these guys have an opportunity to win it. Of course, if Rico wins it, that's good because he's the most popular driver in the sport and brings more eyeballs to high limit, of course. But my pick is going to be Reutzel, just to be, Blake really went off on a limb there with the Rico pick, but I guess mine will be Reutzel, and we'll see how it all plays out because if he can stay healthy, he's going to be tough.
We're on the same page with Reutzel. I'm just so excited to see him out there, and he is the perfect villain for the sport as well. I love his interactions with the fans and everything. It's so much fun.
The sport is better with him in it.
Absolutely.
We were definitely missing something the last few years when he wasn't running nationally. I feel like him running a national tour now has completely changed the entire sport in the best way possible. You finally have somebody to root against, or you can go root for him. It's great. I love it.
He's definitely made a lot of new fans last year. I think he got more new fans than haters, I would say, after what he had to go through in 2025.
Yeah. Especially the emotional win after coming back at Eldora too. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, as we round things out, Chase, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. You guys kick off on Thursday at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track, going through Saturday. Any last little tidbits that we should expect or look forward to this week, coming weeks?
Not that I can think. I mean, we got some guest announcers that'll be in the booth at Vegas on Friday. We will have Carson Hocevar in the booth as he's, teammate with Gio, I guess you could say. And then on Saturday, we're actually going to have Christopher Bell up there calling the action as well. So that'll be cool. And then Blake Anderson will be with us for the Votto race, of course, being on FS1. Have a couple NHRA drivers at Central Arizona because they are racing there too. I think J.R. Todd and maybe Austin Prox. Just we're trying to kind of get some more guest announcers in the booth this year, and so that's something to watch for throughout the year with High Limit, of course. Other than that,
got Ty Gibbs this week. Ty Gibbs is racing.
Yep. And I think we're going to have 36 cars right now on the entry list for Vegas. With obviously, you can get a couple stragglers that we don't have on our list, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get to 40.
That'd be awesome. Healthy fields, you love to see it. So, like I said, we got that on Thursday through Saturday. That'll be on Flow Racing. We also have the World of Outlaws Cowtown Classic at Cannondale Speedway Friday and Saturday. You can check us out below our names here on socials. I'm at Josh_Gerlach. Dawson, what is your handle? You're at what? OW Updates with an underscore.
Yes.
You'll be a very busy man this weekend.
All year.
Your personal is at D_Elliot123. And Chase, I did not write it down. What's your Twitter handle?
It is at Chase_Rodman2.
That is right. And it's obviously right below our names here in the post as well. So appreciate your time. Again, make sure that you are liking this video, subscribing to our channel, to the Raudman Rundown. You can catch Chase every weekend on Flow Racing as well. And we will be back next week for Sprint Car Nights and Knoxville Nights. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.